Whether you stay in or go out to the movies, Jim Ferguson has you covered. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Our Hollywood happening today looks at the DVD Blu-ray release of The Birth of a Nation, which is set in Virginia, 1831, and follows Nat Turner, played by Nate Parker, a literate slave and his rebellion for freedom. Nate Parker also wrote and directed The Birth of a Nation.
You know, I was thinking as a former teacher myself, and I used to teach this period of time in slavery in the South, that set in Virginia, 1809, it's 207 years ago, and we haven't learned enough.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Do you agree with me?
I do. Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with us not having the information. You know, as a U.S. history teacher, curriculums are hard to get past, you know, and you can't just walk into a school and say, you know what we're going to do? These are all the gaps in the curriculum. We're going to fill those gaps with all the people we need to teach about. You probably wouldn't have your job long. You know, I think that, you know, unfortunately, we've put so much energy into being patriotic, but we've put in so, you know, less energy into our true identity as America and the things that we've endured, whether it be with our treatment of the indigenous people and Native Americans, or it be with the people of African descent in this country. You know, there's healing to be had if we're willing to uncover those stones. You know, one of the things Frederick Douglass said, one of his quotes, he said, I began to see the effects of slavery on slave and slave master when I became free. These systems that existed were, they really pulled us into a dark place. And so when
both slave and slave.
That's what I was saying. That's what I asked to everyone. And it was systemic. There were people that had the best intentions, but just couldn't get past the system that was destroying them, corrupting them.
I think the slave master to your character, Samuel Turner, could have been a good man. In fact, when they were little boys and didn't know anything,
better,
they could have been brothers.
That's exactly right. And they maybe felt they were brothers to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But think about, that's what happens. Ignorance is taught. You know, the type of ignorance that inspires racial injustice, it's taught. You know, but sometimes it's taught from exclusion. The fact that I didn't know about Nat Turner or anyone that looked like me that fought for our liberation affected my self-esteem. What if you know, what if I told you, you know, there was no Revolutionary War. Britain just basically said, you can stay and we'll stay here.
No way.
No way. Exactly.
No way. Now, as far as the rebellion, from what I knew, there were other little smaller uprisings.
Tons
of uprisings along the way.
Yes.
But what Nat Turner did was the impact got back to Washington.
That's right.
And that's what was important, and that was a first step. Would you agree?
Absolutely. What people don't know, which I'm sure you know, is Virginia even wrestled with the idea of ending slavery immediately. Because all of a sudden it was like, you know, what do we do? You know, we're not safe in our beds. You know what I mean? So Virginia legislature was like, what do we do about the slave thing? In D.C., they're like, what do we do about the slave thing? And they were at a crossroad, but the reality is it was so profitable. If you could imagine having human beings as your property, you know, whether it be them working or it be expanding your property through them, they had to really ask themselves, were they prepared? Would America be able to stand if they faced this?
And we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up.
You fought.
In spite of the ache, we'll rise up.
You fought for us all.
We'll do it 1,000 times again.
I pray you sing a new song. Let the high praise of God be on the mouths of the saints and a two-edged sword in their hands to execute vengeance on the demonic nations. Sing to him a new song.
Well, the DVD Blu-ray release of the film The Birth of a Nation gives new meaning to Nat Turner's rebellion, which led to the Civil War. And I was surprised this film did not receive recognition at any of the award shows. I thought it was a very good film, and I gave it an A grade. Well, also opening today, the horror drama Rings, an adventure thriller, The Space Between Us, and the adventure fantasy Journey to the West, The Demons Strike. I'm going to see you right here next Tuesday on The Morning Blend with Lawrence Fishburne, one of the stars of the upcoming film John Wick Chapter 2.